Hey everybody, it's Mike Sullivan with Born to Shine. Today we have an awesome guest. His name is Jay Nichols, and he is the executive director of the Principals Association in Vermont. Did I get that right, Jay?
You did, absolutely.
Okay, awesome. Well, thank you for being with us and carving out some time with us today, Jay.
My pleasure.
Now, what was it like? You were a superintendent, you mentioned earlier, before doing the podcast. And what was your journey like to become a superintendent? That's a really big role with a lot of people looking up to you, right, for your leadership and guidance. What was your journey like?
Well, my journey's pretty non-traditional. I was one of those high school kids that struggled in school. I did well in social studies, just did well enough to be eligible for sports and other classes. I was one of those kids that was a little bored in high school, didn't really find it challenging, didn't really enjoy it that much. Got into coaching baseball. I was coaching junior varsity baseball, and while I was doing that, I started realizing that I liked working with kids. Became the varsity coach, and was thinking about going back getting my degree to be a teacher. I was working a pretty good job, making pretty good money, more than I ever made as a teacher. And I needed something to push me. And unfortunately, one of my star athletes got killed in a car accident on a way to a soccer practice. And that was impetus I needed. So I actually quit my job the next day, went to Johnson State College and said, I want to come back to school. I want to be a teacher. Did that in 3 years or so while I was still coaching and working full time. Was a teacher for 4 years, and people tapped me on the shoulder, said, you need to be a principal. Became a principal, did that for a number of years, and then was a superintendent for about a decade before I left the superintendency in 2018. I was actually the Vermont Superintendent of the Year that year, and I left there to take over the Vermont Principals Association, where that's still my job today, the executive director of the VPA. So kind of non-traditional. And we find that people go into the principalship, into leadership. Sometimes school was a real good experience for them. Other times it wasn't, and they want to be one of those people that tries to help improve that experience for others. I fall in the latter category.
I love that. That's such a cool story. And you're right, it is non-traditional, but it was really pretty beautiful how your road kind of wiggled and wiggled and led you to that. And and now how you're helping and supporting principals all over the state of Vermont. So that's incredible. And also congrats on Superintendent of the Year. That's a pretty big deal.
Yeah, not a problem. And when I was a superintendent, I always knew that, for any organization to be successful, especially in schools, having real good principals in each building,
Mm.
what's the paramount factor. And if you look at the research, Wallace Foundation research over and over again, you don't have good schools without good principals, at least not for very long.
Yeah.
So, as a superintendent, your number one job is to hire, train, and retain really good principals.
Yeah. Yeah, absolutely. Top down for sure. Great leader. They're modeling it for their teachers, modeling it for the older students to have kind of peer to peer support to the younger. So, yeah, absolutely. And when you were a K through 12 student, Jay, was there anything that you struggled with emotionally? Or because I was bullied, I had depression, I had anxiety. It started in third grade and it was a train wreck. So, was there anything that
Yeah.
maybe you struggled with a little bit as a kid?
Sure. I mean, my eighth grade year was extremely tough, and I think that's why I became a middle school principal and
Mm.
spent quite a bit of my career at middle school. Still my favorite age to work with. And I moved at the end of my seventh grade. My family moved. Didn't move very far away, but I had to change schools because of that. And I went from a K-8 school where, I had a lot of friends and real positive experience to uh, it wasn't really a middle school, it was an eighth grade that was part of a high school. And
Mm.
my eighth grade year was pretty tough. New kid, kind of picked on, bullied and stuff. I managed to
Mm.
assimilate and make a lot of friends in that school before my time was done there, but it was definitely difficult. Definitely the most difficult year I had in my K-12 experience. And I think that kind of made me want to go back and make middle school better for other kids.
Yeah, that's first of all, sorry to hear that that happened, but it's really admirable that that was the demographic you wanted to go and say, "Hey, man, it was tough for me, so I want to make it better for them." So
Right.
that's really cool. And was there anything when you were a principal and or superintendent over a decade that you saw was kind of working well with supporting your kiddos with mental health, or maybe some things that you thought, oof, there's a big gap here, and kind of in a perfect world, what would you like to see more of now, especially that kids are struggling more and more?
Right. Yeah, what we're seeing in Vermont, and I talk to principals and superintendents all the time, that kids are struggling more and more. We
Hmm.
don't have the mental health services in this state that we need. It's not uncommon for a kid to be referred to an emergency room
Mm,
for mental health issues and be in an emergency room on a suicide watch for weeks at a time because there's no placements, there's no real supports for kids.
mm,
Since COVID, we've really seen that whole situation exasperated, and our mental health support systems are in really bad shape. A lot of hardworking people are trying to do the best they can for kids, but much of what's happening in the mental health arena is falling back on school teachers and principals and other school staff because the kids come to school every day and that's the one place they come. And many students are not getting support. And so schools are trying to do triage services for kids, but oftentimes they're not trained to do that. So it's certainly a huge dilemma. And from our perspective at the VPA, we always say you have to bloom before you can Maslow.
mm,
It's one of our quotes we use all the time. So you got to help kids meet their social emotional needs. You got to make sure they're fed. Sometimes our schools are helping kids being clothed and getting them to appointments and trying to seek out mental health services for them. And it's pretty hard to ask a kid to concentrate on fractions when he or she doesn't know where the next meal is coming from, those types of things. So we try to focus a lot on that. We tell schools all the time that making sure there's at least one caring adult at the school that the kids are really connected with. There's a lot of research that started at the middle level, but it's gone down into elementary and high schools, the value of that and the importance of that. We also talk to schools about the importance of connecting parents to whatever social services are available in that area. And we've got some areas of the state which that just is almost nothing. And we
mm,
got other areas of the state where there's more resources depending on the social economic fabric of the community, unfortunately, oftentimes plays a major factor in there.
mm.
Oh, there's great stuff going on in schools, but boy, the need is higher than it's ever been in my 30 something years of being
Yeah.
in business.
And I really appreciate you sharing all of that, Jay, and your you've been in there for over 3 decades. You've seen a lot of changes. And forever who's watching this right now, it's 2024. So Jay mentioned COVID 2020, and it's still affecting our kids and parents and adults and teachers, principals,
Absolutely.
superintendents, right? So this is something that is takes a village. It takes a
Sure
village.
does. Sure does.
And is there anything on your heart, Jay, that you'd like to share? Maybe it's another principal or another superintendent or a teacher or parent or even a student. Maybe some words of encouragement or, whatever's on your heart that you'd like to share.
One thing I always try to tell kids is, we talk to them about resilience and grit and determination in life and how important that is. There's a lot of people that have been through the same thing that you're going through, or maybe something worse than you're going through.
Mm,
And they can't take away that pain necessarily for you, but there is light at the end of the tunnel. Find things that you're passionate about, that you're interested about, people who care about you, trust those people and give life the best goal you can because this is the one opportunity you have. And it's really easy to get bogged down in depression and anxiety and get help for those things. Don't be afraid to ask for help. If you fell on a playground and broke your leg, you'd ask for help. It's
mm.
no different if you need help for a mental health issue, whether it's uh, major anxiety, if you're feeling depressed, if you're being bullied, ask for help. There's lots of people out there that want to help. People go into the public education sphere pretty much usually because they want to help other people. They want to teach kids. They want kids to learn, and they care about kids. Very few go in it for the money, and if they do, they're not very good at math.
Yeah, love that. Love that. That's so true. So if you are a student, if you're a teacher, if you're a parent, if you're admin, and whatever it is that you're going through, it's okay. It's okay to not be okay. And it's okay, like Jay said, to ask for help. There's no shame in it. I've gotten help with it for many years, and I know many superintendents that have, and many principals that have, and many parents that have. A lot of my buddies that have kids, their kids. So I love your analogy. You fall and break your leg, you go to the hospital, you get help. You're struggling inside, go get help. It's okay.
Exactly. That's great, Mike. And I really appreciate you saying that. And that message of Born to Shine is all about that. And that's what we need to be telling people because nobody's perfect. I mean, so many of our kids look at social media and they see Instagram posts and they think, oh, everybody else's life is perfect and stuff. But Instagram is not a real reflection of what people are going through on a
Mhm.
day-to-day basis in life. We've
Right.
all got our struggles. Nobody's perfect. Everybody feels down at times. Everybody has issues they're dealing with. Give grace to other people and try to be supportive of them. And when you need help, reach out for it and know that other people are going to help you.
Amen to that. Jay Nichols, thank you so much for sharing time with us. Really appreciate it.
You're very welcome. Take care, Mike.